Thank you, Unity of Des Moines. It's so nice to be here today. A beautiful sunny day. I don't know if you've had the weather we've had in Kansas City, but it's been a week of gray and miserable and getting kind of down. People are getting down. It took a lot of energy to, find that spiritual center and renew again with the depths of winter, and I opened the door today to birds chirping and sunshine, and I was just uplifted and overjoyed to be coming here today to Des Moines, to your spiritual community here in Unity. And I wanted to also say I was blown away yesterday driving in as how beautiful the area is. The looked a little like Washington, D.C. to me. It was you have a gorgeous city. I'm happy to be here. So my talk today it's called 7 Times Down, 8 Times Up. And this is a Japanese saying. I don't know if it's an old saying or a more recent one, but literally it means fall down 7 times, get up 8. And of course it speaks to that idea of no matter how many times you get knocked down, you get up again. And excuse me, in Japanese society, this is a cultural norm, this idea of resilience and fortitude and whatever comes your way, you keep going, you gather yourself up again. And don't we have that same idea in so much of our own society and our own culture, that idea of, you never give up, never surrender. You keep going and don't be a quitter. Especially with the Olympics we've watched this last 2 weeks, we see that energy of overcoming, that so much of what these people have had to go through to even get where they are, to get the Olympics, the personal stories, we all identify with those because it touches us, we're inspired. And aren't we inspired by those high schoolers in Parkland, Florida, with the tragedy they've experienced this week? We know that even with the grief and through the grief and trauma that they've experienced, that we see them pushing forward and overcoming and organizing to make real positive change, to be active in creating the world they want to live in and doing that. And that speaks to the 7 times down, 8 times up. We keep going. Psychologists have identified this quality of resilience as essential to good mental health and happiness and success. And the dictionary even has a definition for resilience as that ability of substance or an object to spring back into shape, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. And that's another word they use to describe resilience as toughness. The psychological definition is actually the ability to change course and soldier on. Well, I don't know. Does a person really need to soldier on to be successful in life? I like the definition about springing back into shape. And in my mind, that's the shape we were created as, not the shape we made of ourselves and our personalities, but again, that shape that God created us as. Pretty much a ball of jello much of the time. So, not a tough girl. But, I've kept going. I've gone through addiction issues and divorce, cancer, losing business, having a child with mental illness. I'm sure you can identify with some of that what gets us through, what got me through, was not soldiering on. No, my experience has not been without bumps and bruises, and I bet neither is yours. A lot of people waste time thinking they they have to be tough and rely on their own strength. When they come to a dead end and their best thinking just doesn't work for them anymore, it's when the wheels fall off the axle. People don't like to admit they need God when they hit bottom. It doesn't even have to be rock bottom, but when we ask, God answers. Leonard Cohen writes, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in." So there's something about brokenness that opens us up and makes us receptive to God. In unity, we know we are not broken. But we can hold a consciousness of feeling that way. We go through our experiences, and when they're painful, we often hold a mistaken belief and identification that we are our troubles, we are our poverty, we are our illness or diagnosis, but we come back again and affirm the presence and power of God in us, as us. I heard a young preacher, an evangelical preacher this week, being interviewed, and he said it so well. He said, God in us is able. We don't have to convince God to love us. God doesn't pull out when we fail. That's just a beautiful statement. I wish I'd thought of it, actually. God doesn't pull out when we fail. God is always there, and I want to invite you to hold that truth, that no matter what we go through, God is there. We don't have to convince God to pick us up, he said, or pull us through, because God is love. We are created in the image and likeness of God. Now, I know this young man's understanding of God is different from mine. We don't, in unity, see God as an outer being or doing things, not a big hand in the sky making things happen for us. No, God is the truth of who we are, the energy, prosperity, wisdom, creativity, all the qualities of God we are as the I am of the Christ that we are created. The Christ in you, Charles Fillmore said, your hope of glory. No, we are not broken. God does not pull out when we fail. So 7 times down, 8 times up. God is always there to pick us up and move us through, but from the inside. If God is our source, where's the need for struggle? If God is ease and grace, how tough do we need to be? We so often think we have to do things ourselves, and we forget that God awareness, and we need to admit our need for God. And what is it? AA was mentioned today in the daily word, and paraphrase, the first 3 steps of AA is, I can't do it, something else can. Let it. That's powerful in a quiet way. Who likes to admit defeat? The big book says nobody. And yet it isn't until we surrender that we have any hope of the new life that's waiting for us, the new life we're going to discover if we let go of the old way of thinking, let go of the mistaken ideas and the false beliefs, the beliefs we took on for our egos, but our egos won't get us there, will they? No, it's a different kind of surrender when you quit grandiosity and self-reliance and you gain the power of, I hate to use the word, but yes, the power of redemption. We are redeemed by that power of God within us over and over if we let it. 2nd, 3rd chances, 4th chances. Someone shared with me just today of those miracles of that could only be God working in their life to get them through things they never thought they could have. That inner consciousness guiding to things we need, things that are waiting for us. Those little miracles, those little gifts along unseen gifts that are waiting for us to pick up and add into our lives. They're there. My son's going through a hard time. He's not seeing any of those gifts. He's mired in his sense of brokenness. I can care and I can pray, and you may have similar situations in your life, people who are suffering that you can't do anything about. Well, we can care and we can pray. And prayer is so very, very powerful. So keep praying. So we come to this season of Lent. And whether you have a background in Lent and traditional Christianity that might, have serious time of prayer and fasting, self-mortification and all that, we know in Unity that, in a new thought, that prayer is letting go of false ideas and going deep within, knowing that we can do better, that we can live happier, healthier, more energized, more connected lives. So Lent is that period before Easter, and it reminds us spring is coming. Today reminds us spring is coming, at least it's reminding me. But Lent is the time of year where we are invited to go deeper within, not to give up things other than mistaken ideas. I love the metaphysical idea that we're just holding on to so much baggage that we will benefit from letting go of, being lighter and finding new understanding. Well, this season, this week actually, is also another liturgical holiday. You might not be aware of it, but in Judaism, it's Purim this week. And Purim and Lent kind of dovetail a little bit well. I don't know if you're familiar with Purim, but it's kind of the Jewish Halloween. And it's a time of fun and revelry and costumes and costume parades. And instead of going around getting candy, children go around giving baskets of goodies and candy. But Purim, at the religious basis, and I don't know if it's a historical basis, because it retells the story of Esther, Queen Esther, in the book of Esther in the Bible. It's that third part of the Bible at the end where they tack on all the stories. It's Esther is an intertestament of literature, and placed in an ancient time when the Babylonian captivity, when the Babylonians destroyed the first temple and took the I guess they say the intellectuals and the higher levels of the Jewish society and took them to Babylon and as hostages and took them from their homes. So this is the story of Esther, who's a beautiful, obedient child, orphan girl, and she grows up in Shushan in Persia, in Babylonia, and she wins a beauty contest to become the queen of the second queen after the king gets rid of his first wife. And she's living in luxury, and she's told to keep her Jewish identity a secret. And so she marries this king, Artaxerxes, who's a historical figure. And she's living in luxury, and her uncle tells her to, he hears of a plot to destroy all the Jews. I don't know if you remember Alan King, the comedian, but Alan King gave a short summary of all Jewish holidays. They tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. And Purim is no exception. But reason I even bring up Purim is that, so Esther's uncle tells her that only she can save her people. And Esther says, what, me? No, I'm queen. I got it good. I got this palace. I've got hot and cold running eunuchs. I've got everything any girl could ever wish for. And if I go to the king without an invitation, I am going to be killed instantly. That's the law. Anyone who shows up in the king's palace without an invitation, off with their head. And she knows this. But her uncle tells her, listen, if you think you're going to get out of this just because of you're the queen, you are mistaken. This is a plot to kill all the Jews, and only you can get to the king. What does Esther do? Well, Esther goes into prayer. And she fasts. And she makes all her household fast. And she rips her clothes. She wears sackcloth and ashes for, I think it is, a week. And she prays and she prays and she prays because she does not know what to do. She is so conflicted. Where's the answer? Well, God comes through because God does not pull out when we need God. And in her prayers and in her meditations and physical fasting, the answer comes to her. And she very calmly prepares herself and dresses to be the most beautiful she has ever been, and to whatever will come, goes to the king. Whatever will come, she is willing to face it. And we know the end of the story. Of course, he sees her, she's stunning, he can't resist, and he holds the golden scepter out to her, and she is admitted into the king. Then she doesn't tell him right away what she wants. She sets up a dinner, and this has all come from her own power of creativity or power of imagination that Charles Fillmore tells us. All things will be revealed in the silence, in that secret place most high. All the answers come. God is waiting to pick us up and show us the way. And so Esther is shown the way, and so we eat. We have a wonderful time. But Jesus also shows us the way through prayer and fasting. And we ask ourselves, where did Jesus pray and fast in the Gospels? Well, we know it is when he's in the wilderness, right after he shows up. I mean, we don't know much about Jesus' life from the age of 12 till he shows up at his baptism with John the Baptist there at the other side of the Jordan. But it must have been rough, because only people who were certain the end of the world was coming, and they need to set themselves right with God to get ready for this event that was going to change everything and relieve them from the terrible oppression they were living under. Only God was going to help them through that. So they went to be baptized, and John the Baptist had this spiritual program, and you got cleansed and redeemed, and you were ready for the spiritual work that you were going to undertake. And he sent, after the baptism, you were sent into the wilderness, naked, and I don't think they had backpacks with food. So they were naked and hungry in the trials of the desert, and we know Jesus did this. Historical footnote, and I'm a Bible nerd, so of course. John the Baptist is actually the only historical figure we have in the Gospels that we can rely on, because there's real historical evidence that he was who we know he was and did what we know he did, and that he has a real historical story documented by the Romans. And anyway, happy to talk to you anytime about all that. So Jesus prays and fasts for 40 days in the wilderness. He overcomes his temptations. He is crystallized in his knowing of who he is now and what he's here to do. And from that place, he begins his ministry. So 8 times up, God renews us through our prayers, through our letting go of ideas that no longer serve us. And we go forward. We go forward to do amazing things. I love that song, "You Will Do Amazing Things." Well, we're all here to do amazing things. We need to get ourselves ready to do them. And we do that by going into prayer. So, is fasting sacrifice? Is it giving up of stuff, physical stuff? I don't think so. I think we hold an old idea in consciousness, though, that in the collective consciousness, that sacrifice is somehow pleasing to God. But at the core of that, that's a pagan idea. We are a metaphysical people, a higher consciousness people, and we move forward. We understand it differently, but it's still hard to get rid of all those old ideas. So we have Lent. We welcome Lent. We enjoy Lent because we get so much out of it. And it prepares us for that renewal, that joyous resurrection that is coming through Easter, that we know new life. We've overcome. We can get through anything because God is with us, showing us the way, preparing us for spiritual work, the work that we're here to do. So we in fact form a mental picture of everything we can conceive of. We can't do it in the noise of the day. We can't do it in the busyness of our lives. The silence is where we find our answers, and we let that power of imagination open possibilities for us. So 7 times down, 8 times up. We build spiritual muscle through prayer and through going deeper, looking for what it is we're here to give up, to let go of. We don't need it anymore. It's in our way. And so we return to spiritual basics in Lent. We come to affirm our oneness, to experience it, and we move forward, making those choices that bring us closer to God, that express more of God in us, as us, and through us, as we listen. Come what may, we're brought from fear to faith, and we know God is working in our lives, and we are grateful. Thank you.